Dragon Riders, Kaze no Kaeru, by Night Dragon 0. Dracia's perspective. The boat thing had been one hell of a ride, even with what I've been through. I think my ears were still ringing from all the firing, but we made it off okay with some help from our mysterious friend. With their scuba gear on, Storm and Ogwell had swum underwater along Sarek and myself. We'd been far enough away to avoid the nasty explosion, and had kept on swimming until we were well away. On a side note, this was one time I'd seen Firestorm this comfortable in the water. Must have had something to do with being human, but not like I knew anyway. Night soon fell, and deciding that it was too dangerous to swim around in the darkness, we stopped on a small island and set up camp. Storm had been clearly disturbed as he filled the rest of us in on the details. Team Rocket and Silph were at a war apparently, and he was accidentally caught up in the middle of it. And for our current situation, we were somewhere out in the Olivine Ocean with absolutely no idea of where to go. Life's just swell, isn't it? I sighed. The others had already gone to sleep, Storm and Ogwell still in their wetsuits, and I was left awake, lying next to Mirage and Sarek. But something just didn't feel right. I got up and hovered along the beach, keeping our camp in sight. As hard as I searched, I couldn't see anything out of the ordinary. I was about to head back to the camp when I heard a high-pitched screech. My head snapped up and saw the flying object, giving me only moments to fly away before it hit the ground. Some Pokemon, it seemed. It got to its feet and roared. My first thought was that it was an Aerodactyl, but as I moved closer, it turned out to be something else, a large gray wyvern, some kind of dragon. It was poised to attack, and I did likewise. There was a stare down, each one daring the other to make the first move. I decided to take it and fired off my Thunderbolt. I barely even saw him move, but he was suddenly out of the way and back on the same spot again. I moved away as a beam attack sent the sand flying everywhere. Even though I was momentarily blinded by the sand, I heard his wings flapping. He was using Gust and brewing up a sandstorm. I took a chance and sprayed my hydro pump in a random direction. It apparently hit him because I heard his roar of pain. He used a quick attack, knocking the wind out of me and sending me to the floor. Dracia! I heard Ogwell shouting. The wyvern roared in pain as two fire attacks hit him at once, one from Storm and one from Mirage. Sarek leapt in front of them and fired an ice beam. The wyvern dodged and advanced. Sarek made a bold attempt by using her agility and trying to match up with him, but all the Vaporeon got was a smack from his tail. Storm and Mirage fired again, only to miss and cause the wyvern to take to the sky, where they couldn't hit him effectively. However, I still could. I flew up behind him and wrapped my long snake-like body around his chest and neck. Enraged, the wyvern attempted to turn his head to bite me. I tightened my grip, immobilizing his head, but that didn't mean the rest of him wasn't struggling like mad. Dracia! Firestorm yelled, hesitating to fire in fear of hitting me. Get away from it! Yeah, run! Mirage agreed. No! Not till I finish this! I called back defiantly. I was smacked multiple times by his wings and tail, but I held on with all my strength. I was battered and bruised. It seemed like forever, but finally his strength failed, and he fell. But so did I. Dracia! Storm ran and jumped in an attempt to catch me before I hit the sand. Dracia! I told you to let go! That should have been my fight! Hey, we're in this together, I gasped weakly, feeling him cradle me in his arms. I know, but I already lost Jade. I won't make the same mistake of losing you too. I care too much about you to let that happen. Storm. Sarek walked up and nuzzled my body. The Vaporeon always seemed to be thinking and never said a word, but I talked to her nonetheless. She sincerely smiled and laughed at my jokes, even though I admit they were pretty lame. I dared say that we've gotten pretty close. Then I felt it, the evolution. Storm practically dropped me in shock. I stood up, now as a Dragonite, and smiled, striking a pose. Firestorm was staring, with his mouth wide open. Hey Storm, what's wrong? Don't I look good? I winked. Yeah, really good, Storm said dreamily. I could practically see the stars in his eyes and the hearts above his head. I was just thinking of how good you'd look in a bikini. I promptly slapped him. Ow! Does that mean you still won't marry me? He moaned. Dream on! Mirage and Sarek begun laughing. Ogwell looked a little stunned. It's a girl thing, Mirage whispered to him. That's very funny, but how dare everyone ignore me? Do you know who I am? The wyvern asked, annoyed. We'd completely forgotten about him. You talk, I gaped. Heh, that's something you should say about yourself, Dragonite. I am Artis, the Flying Dragon. Damn, I can't believe I was defeated by a girl. The last part was a whisper, but I heard it. Excuse me? I flapped over and grabbed him by the neck. Is that how you talk to a lady? He choked. Next time, I whacked him on the head. Show proper respect for a woman. Is it just me, or did Dracia gain some nasty attitude? Firestorm muttered. Storm, your lesson's up next. That won't be necessary, but I do need to talk to the legendary dragon here. Yes, indeed. Firestorm, for defeating me in combat, I am obliged to pass on a sacred skill. Wait, but I didn't do much at all, Storm protested. It was Dracia's work. That is the honorable thing to say, but your friends are an integral part of your quest, are they not? Yes. Your strength comes from unity. It won't even take a psychic to see that. Come now, touch my head and receive fanaticism. Firestorm did so, glowing with a golden light. Fanaticism, dragon element, a combination of outrage and agility. This move is an aura, used as though it were a defensive spell. It affects yourself and any allies within its range, bolstering their speed and attack power for as long as you maintain it. Even in human form, I should be able to use this one effectively, Firestorm chuckled. Dracia, I have something for you too. Artist reached out with his tail and touched my forehead. I felt a slight shock as when a TM is used on me. Wow, this attack is the Aeroblast, the breath attack I used just now. Consider this my gift from one warrior to another. Artist, I need you to find your comrade, Zion, Firestorm said, getting back to the point of our journey. A friend of mine has gone missing, having lost his memories to his wild instincts. I figured I needed both my original body back and to strengthen my planeswalking ability if I ever want to find him. This has something to do with why you're a human now, right? Artist asked. We quickly outlined the details for him. I see, he nodded. Unfortunately, Zion comes and goes as he pleases. Even I admit I have problems chasing a psychic. However, I will bring you to someone else who may be able to help. Come, get on my back and I'll take you at the speed of light. He was pretty huge and there was enough space for all of us. Poor Mirage had some problems, but I held on to her. How fast do you really go? Storm asked. Literally, sonic speeds. Artist grinned. I felt my stomach lurching back as we were speeding away. Firestorm's perspective. I awoke, groaning. The others were waking up as well. We were in some sort of cave, extending in both up and down directions. Unfortunately, it was impossible to tell what time it was. Ugh, where are we? I moaned. Where Artist brought us, I suppose, Ogwell said. I really couldn't see much, but he flew through some greatly concealed entrance and dropped us off here before disappearing again. You got all that? I gasped. I must have passed out halfway. So you've come then. A deep voice reverberated throughout the cavern. I have awaited your arrival. Come here and find the answers you seek. Should we follow? Dracia wondered out loud. I feel we must, I said, pointing to the downward path. It's this way. I led my companions down the path. The cavern seemed, oddly enough, to have its own sources of lighting, though I wasn't sure what. Perhaps light was suddenly coming through varied entrances? I suddenly noticed that I was standing on grass instead of the rocky floor of the cave. Well met, Firestorm, the voice boomed. It was much louder now, practically in front of us. We arrived at a point where the pathway opened up into a large cavern. I indicated for my friends to wait there and went on myself. I was greeted by a fantastic sight. Before me stood the source of the voice, another dragon. This one was immobile, his legs like roots of a plant digging into the ground below. His long tail swayed back and forth as the eyes of the dragon had scanned me. On the back of the dragon grew a large flower, much like a Venusaur. Obviously, he was green in color. I am the grass dragon, Grix. Do you live down here? I asked, wondering if it was at all possible for Grix to move his location. Speaking of that, where is here anyway? You could say that about me, here under the Tri-Lands, the dragon nodded, chuckling softly. I may choose to relocate if I will, but relocation for me may take decades, perhaps even centuries to complete. I would much prefer to wait. However, you have some business that brought you here. Yes, I nodded. But isn't there some standard I have to pass before getting anything out of you guys? Indeed. I didn't need to see the multiple vines emerging from the large bulb on his back to know he was going to attack. I moved quickly, dodging and leaping out of the thrashing vines. Ha! I threw flames from my hands, creating a wall of fire between Grix and myself. The vines withdrew at the touch of the flames, but then a flower opened up to each vine. I was unsure of their significance until I saw the white glow. They were solar beams charging. Uh-oh, I found myself running again, trying to dodge the powerful beam attacks. I begun return fire, throwing my own flame attacks. Unfortunately, they barely seemed to scratch the grass dragon at all. A solar beam hit the ground in front of me, sending me flying back into the wall, leaving an impression of my body in it. "Above you!" Dracia yelled. I looked up to see several large rocks falling over me. I roared, lashing out with my claws, shattering the rocks. My claws? I was back in my own Charizard body. Somehow, I just was. I didn't understand it, but I knew I had to make use of it while it lasted. I kicked off the wall and took to the air. Using my wings felt extremely odd, even after just several days of being a human. I fired off random fireballs to distract the vines, then aimed and fired a fire blast at the dragon himself. His vines were quickly crossed in front of his body and blocked the flames. I swooped down, only to be whacked in the face by the vines. I recovered in mid-fall and flipped myself around, slicing up several vines with my claws. Retreating, I let loose a long fiery breath to distract my opponent, at the same time summoning up my new power. Fanaticism! I saw myself glowing with a red-orange light, a little different than my normal scale color. Suddenly, I felt like one strong Charizard. Well, Charizard are naturally strong anyway, but I felt like I'd spent the day working out in the gym as well. Pointing my head downwards, I let myself fall, rapidly spinning my body and using my wing attack to slice up any vines that got in my path. Grix wasn't beaten yet, and fired off a whole swarm of Razor Leafs. Spin Slash! Setting my own claws ablaze, I started spinning 180 degrees round, essentially becoming a ball of flames. This sacred skill was a flying element based, however, but it still did the job of charring the Razor Leafs into obliteration. Seeing that he was immobile, I thought it would be an easy hit on him. That was when I got a Hydro Pump right to the face. Gah! I spluttered, caught in a moment of arrogance. Suddenly, vines were everywhere, all over my body. I was blinded as one wrapped itself around my eyes. I was choking and unable to breathe or even move. My wrists and hands were free, but not like I could do anything with just them. Grix must have a sacred skill, I thought. All the others require physical contact to pass them on to me, but Grix is in contact with me now, so maybe I can tap into it. I turned my hands and grasped the nearest vine, trying to focus whatever strength I had left into the task. It came to my mind in the form of one word: integration. Grix must have felt the electric charge running from my body to his. I imagine it ran down the vine straight towards him. The lightning element attack wouldn't normally have hurt him too badly, but this was not only a lightning attack, but also a strike to the mind. The dragon roared and collapsed as much as his rooted feet would let him. Exhausted, I let myself hit the ground amidst the pile of grass dragon vines.